I just finished Girl in the Creek, and it is a new horror novel that effectively utilizes one of my favorite locations when it comes to building atmosphere in books, movies, stories, shows, and that, of course, is the Pacific Northwest. And in this book, the Clackamas National Forest serves as an eerie backdrop for the small, unassuming town of Faraday, Oregon. But the shelter and shadows of looming trees and long abandoned mine shafts shelter poachers and malevolent forces on the outskirts of this area that go unseen and unheard. There's also this ruined hotel on the outskirts of this picturesque small town. And the ruins are drawing in these mushrooms and these fungi that the local expert can't even identify or put his finger on. Then you also have the piling of missing persons cases. And that's where our main character, freelance writer Erin Harper, comes into the fold. He arrives in Faraday to investigate what happened to one of those missing people, who happens to be her brother. But when she arrives, she discovers that someone else has gone missing, and she ends up finding that missing person in a creek. But then that missing person goes missing once again, but this time from the morgue. And days later, her fingerprints end up at a new crime scene. Maybe it's a spree slayer, or maybe it's the spores from those mushrooms infecting those lost within the forest. What I liked the most about this book was that no one felt safe, and it felt like the environment and the atmosphere grew more and more claustrophobic as the story wore on. The ever-changing fungal and humid landscape feels so incredibly palpable. As the main character begins to approach what seems like answers, it also feels like she becomes more threatened by those forces, which helps to maintain and even increase at times a higher set of stakes than I could have imagined when I first started this book. And I do think the atmosphere is probably the strongest element in this story, and when horror gets that right, it just adds a certain something, which can be hard to do because when you lean too much on the atmosphere, at times it just feels like descriptions that are ongoing and never-ending, page after page, and the characters can feel kind of thin at times. But if something that is pitched as atmospheric horror doesn't do quite enough of that, the atmosphere doesn't feel quite effective. But I feel like Girl in the Creek balances those two things well. The rounding out of some of the more supplementary characters did feel a bit thin at times, but the main character's search and that atmosphere definitely made up for it. So all in all, I would say that this one is incredibly well suited for those who are fans of atmospheric horror.